I have 6 library cards. Yes, you heard me, 6. How did that happen, you might ask? Well, 4 of them are from around where I live. So I have the city that I live in and then the 4 surrounding cities as well, because I was able to do that. And then I have one for the city I live in for college, and then I have one for Orange County, Florida, which is another state. I do not live in Florida. So you might ask, why Orange County, Florida? Well, I could do a whole story time on that if anyone wanted it. It wouldn't be very book related, but I moved to Florida last semester to be in the Disney College program. I just watched this back and I'm just popping in here to say, when I said that and left it off, it sounded like I did not have a good experience. I had a great experience on the Disney College program. If anyone does want a story time on that, I'd be happy to give it. I had a great experience. I don't know why I said it like that. I had so much fun. Okay, back to the video. I have 6 library cards. Basically, I cannot be trusted in or around a library because I will try to get a library card and then procure books from said libraries. All of this to say, I went to the libraries the other day and I walked out with these. I don't know why I'm on a graphic novel kick right now, but I thought it would be fun. And it just so happens that I got all queer graphic novels. So I thought it would be fun to do a little video on all the queer graphic novels I got from the library and a little reading vlog for each of them. So come along with me as I read through them, or maybe the way I edited this, I've already read them. Let's go. So I just finished Project Nought and I absolutely loved it. It was so good. I had high hopes for this going in, because I have been seeing it around and it's been on my list for forever, and I just wanted it to be good, and boy howdy was it. I went into this with like very minimal knowledge about what it was about, even though I had my eyes on it for a while now. I knew it was like sci-fi, I knew it was queer. In my head, I thought the main character Ren, I thought he was like cryogenically frozen. I don't know how I got that in my head. That's wrong. He's not cryogenically frozen, and it doesn't say that anywhere in the book. I don't know why I thought that. So the whole plot is there's this kid, Ren, and he's from 1996, and one day he finds out that his mom is going to send him away to live with his aunt, I think, and so he decides to run away and go meet up with his pen pal, Georgia. And he gets on a bus, and then he trips and falls, and he lands flat on his face, and then he wakes up in 2122, the year 2122. And I kind of knew it was gonna happen, but even it was like I was like, whoa, what? And so the plot is that there's this big tech company called Chronotech who have invented time travel, and basically they have this like exchange student program where they pluck students from their times and then bring them to 2122. They're there for like 5 months and then they go back to their time, but their memories get erased and like they don't remember that they time traveled at all. And so basically for the kids that get plucked out of time, it's like, what's the point almost? And so Ren then kind of has to figure out his footing in the future, and each student is partnered with a student in the future. So there's a student in the past and a student in the future, and they're partnered together, and Ren gets partnered up with Mars, who is just this energetic little ball of joy, and I love him so much. Whereas Ren is more like antisocial, he doesn't like attention, he doesn't like crowds, he doesn't really like talking all that much, so it's very much like Grumpy Sunshine almost. They were so cute. It was so cute. I really loved it. However, while that's all going on and Ren's trying to figure out what's going on in the future and Mars just wants Ren to have a good time, there's like a mystery going on, because I think 10 years ago, one of the subjects, which is what the kids from the past are called, one of the subjects died, but the big Chronotech company, they like covered it up, so no one really knows what happened except for this one person, Jai, who's Mars' best friend. And so there's a whole mystery about what's really going on with the kids who are being like plucked from their time and forcibly time traveled. And so there's this whole mystery going on throughout the whole thing of like, what's really going on? Is it really time travel? If not, then what is it? And there's this whole like web of lies basically that they have to uncover. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm very against spoilers. My whole channel will hopefully be spoil free forever. I just read this book. Not only was it fun and enjoyable and I loved reading about the characters, but also the mystery got me. It got me good. I was recording some of my reactions last night and what? It had me by the throat and I was loving it. Not like that. just read this book. It was just really good, and now I want to go buy this book. I want to have this on my shelf so that I can go back and reread it. Also, I just want to say the art style, gorgeous. Loved it. Like, I am obsessed. It's very clear the distinctions between like the past and the future. This is the past, right? It's very warm tones, yellowy, greeny, orangey, and then immediately you turn the page and it's dark. And it's obviously the future. And it's like dark colors and like blacks, stark cools, and it's like, it's really good. The art style is really good. The pacing was really good. The story was amazing. The characters are amazing. 5 stars. 5 stars. Okay, next I'm going to read Check Please 1 and 2, so stay tuned. These are quite possibly one of the cutest books that I've ever read. And I mean that dead seriously. I loved this. This was so much fun. This was everything that I ever hoped that it was going to be, and so much more. I loved this. I loved the characters, I loved the art, I loved the story. It just felt so, it was real, but it was like simplified and cute. I gave these 5 out of 5 stars. Let's unpack. Now, I will say going into this, I thought it was something different. I thought, because obviously it's like volume 1, volume 2, and I thought that there were more. I didn't realize that this is the whole thing. Also, that just goes to show that like this whole, it's like one story, right? Because it follows Biddy's 4 years in college. So it's like these are the first 2 years and these are the second 2 years basically. And I think it's perfect. I think it's beautifully done, and I think it's very well paced. I think each of the books has exactly what it needs, and that it does exactly what it needs to do. I'll start with the first one. I loved this. I'm gonna be full disclosure, I didn't rate this 4 out of 5 stars initially, just because my 5-star ratings are usually books that I am like outwardly showing a lot of emotion about. And this one was fun, it was cute, and I loved reading it, but I didn't cry. I wasn't like bursting out laughing every 5 seconds. It didn't make me want to like scream into my pillow, and usually that's how I rate my 5 stars, as if I like physically can't contain it. And I'll get more on why I rated it 5 stars in the end later when I talk about the second book. But this one, it didn't have as much as the relationship that I thought it did, and that's a good thing, because it really established Biddy as his own character and his journey and everything like that, so that when we got into the relationship, I felt like I knew his character, and I also knew Jack's character very well. So I think it worked incredibly well, and I think it added to the story in that way rather than taking away his individuality. I'll just quickly move on to the second book now. I loved this. When I finished this, I immediately rated it 5 stars. This was beautiful. This was perfect. I loved everything that happened in it, even the things that like I wish didn't happen. I loved that it happened. I mean that like there was some controversy that happened with the characters, and it was hard to read at sometimes, but that also made it feel real and tangible, and it really added to the story. I loved the relationship. I love how healthy the relationship is and how they communicate with each other, and I think it's a really good example of what a healthy queer relationship can be, and I think that's really important. Now I'll get into why I rated this one 4 eventually, and then both of them 5 at the end, because I'm rating them as one in my head. How I see this is it's one story, it's just broken up into 2 parts. Like Mockingjay, Hunger Games Mockingjay, right? It's one book, but it's broken up into 2 movies. That's how I see this. It's one story, it's just broken up into 2 parts. So it's the same story for me. And this book made the whole thing 5 stars instead of just 4 or 4.5. It really pulled it all together and made it 5 stars for me. And that's how I rated it, and I think that's fair. Now I just want to talk about how much I relate to Biddy, the main character, because good God, this is like me, but a gay male. If you don't know much about this series, Biddy is a figure skater turned hockey player, and he bakes all the time. The first one's just called hockey, but he's got a pie in his hand. The second one is called sticks and scones, and he's got an almost empty pie tray here. I also love to bake, and the one thing that Biddy and I have majorly in common is stress baking. I stress bake hard, and you can ask my roommates this, because cookies and brownies will just appear sometimes, and I'm like, sorry, I either had nothing to do, or I was bored, or I'm stressed. So that hit home. One more thing before I wrap this up. I absolutely loved the found family in this. It was beautiful, and I loved all the different relationships, and I loved how not everyone was immediately on board. I love how some people were just there for the ride. It felt real to me, but it was also so sweet. I am such a sucker for found family, and this one did it really well. I think that's why I like hockey romances so much, and maybe just sports romances in general now, because the team kind of becomes a found family for some of the characters, which it just makes me happy. Found family it just makes me happy. All right, bear with me. I'm trying out some different backgrounds. I've moved into my college apartment this week, so I'm trying different things. Anyway, the next book that I'm going to talk about is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. I have mixed feelings about this. I will be completely honest with you. I did go into it thinking it was going to be something completely different. I don't know why, but the title and the synopsis on the back were almost giving like comedy, or at least kind of funny, and it wasn't funny at all. And so I think that might be on me a little bit. I expected something different than what it was. I thought it promised something that it didn't. Moving past that, I will also disclaim that it's quite possible that this just wasn't for me, and it just wasn't for me right now. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me is a very real look at infatuation and toxic relationships and staying with someone because you like them and you know you like them and you're sure in that fact, no matter what they do. I had a hard time not reading it, but relating to the main character, just because it felt different than your normal toxic relationship book where she kind of knows that it's not good for her, but she stays anyways. And she sees how her friends are kind of reacting to it, and she knows that her friends don't approve, but she stays anyways, which I know is like a very real thing. I just think it wasn't for me. I gave this, I think, 3.5 stars, maybe 4 stars, because I think it is a good book. It's a really good story. Well, it's not a good story, but it's a very moving story. The art is beautiful. I think this can really touch some people's hearts, and I think that this is a really good book to have out in the world, especially for young queer people. I think it's a very good resource to be able to tell what might be a toxic relationship, the signs for manipulation or emotional abuse. I think it's really good in that regard. I think it's a very important story. I just think I didn't click with it when I read it, which makes me a little upset because I did want to like this. I'll probably revisit it in the future. I think right now I might just be in a much better place than I used to be. I think if I had read this a year ago, I think it would have really hit home, which I'm proud of myself now for not being in that place. But it makes me sad that I can't really find something in this book for me. But I think that it's a very important book to have, and I think that it's a very important book for other people. I think it depicts isolation very well, especially isolation while you're still in a friend group, feeling very lonely while you're still surrounded by friends, or even while you're in a relationship. It depicts that very well. I think it also depicts realizing what's good for you and what's not good for you. It also does hit on the inability to feel like you can make new friends and be happy with other people when you're currently unhappy in your own situation, like you feel stuck. It hits on that, and I think it does a really good job at that. Alright, the final book that I'm going to talk about in this video is called Firebird by Sunmi? I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. This book was really good. It was just really good. It was so honest and real. I felt like seen reading this. I didn't go into it with any expectations. I didn't know what it was going to be about. I didn't know if it was going to be funny or heartbreaking, or if I was supposed to cry or laugh or be angry. I knew nothing. I knew that it was queer and that the art looked really cool. And honestly, I'm really glad that I went into it with no expectations, because it would have blown any of them away. Anything that I had thought I knew before reading this, out of the water. This was just such a wonderful experience reading this book. And I say wonderful not in the sense that I was so happy reading it the whole time, because it did get frustrating and it did hurt sometimes, but in the way that I related to it and not in the way that the actual book made me upset. The main character, I really relate to her. She struggles with a lot of the things that I struggle with, and I also felt seen with just her queer identity and finding her queer identity, being scared to try new things and being scared of changes. It can be really scary when you think you know yourself and then it turns out that you really don't. She also struggles with body image, being plus size, and I also really struggle with that. I won't go into that. But it was really refreshing to see almost my exact thoughts printed on paper. It felt very validating. It also touches on the relationship that she has with her mom and how being Korean impacts that as well. I'm not going to sit here and talk about like I know everything that has to do with this topic because I don't, and it's also not really my story to tell, but I think it was really good representation and it was really interesting to read about anyways. This book is just finding yourself and being queer and struggling with it but also being okay with it. And the romance was really cute and I loved the depiction of the Firebird. Like it's called Firebird and it like keeps coming up as kind of like it's like the phoenix, and it keeps coming up like she wants to be like not necessarily reborn but she wants to start new kind of. It was just really good and a really fun reading experience. Alright, so that was the 5 graphic novels that I read in the past week or two. I really enjoyed all of these. Even Laura Deem, it might have seemed that I didn't enjoy it. I did, it just wasn't what I was expecting. But I would definitely recommend all of these for anyone who wants to read them. Obviously, you can pick them up at your local library like I did, or you can support the authors. I look forward to reading more queer literature. Obviously, that's what I look for every day. I hope that you guys are interested in some of these, and if you are, go pick them up. Your local library is a great resource. If you guys would like me to do this again, maybe with more queer graphic novels, or if you guys have any recommendations for queer graphic novels, leave them down in the comments below. Let me know. I'd love to chat about them. Also, I'm turning into a real YouTuber now. Don't forget to subscribe. I've got some fun videos lined up soon. In a couple months, I'm going to New York, so I think I'm going to do a little vlog, maybe a little bookshop tour of New York City. It's going to be pretty fun, so stick around. And with that, I hope you had fun. I hope you stick around, and I hope you read to your heart's content.